Thank you. Thank you. I would like to first thank my legal counsel, Ravi, for being there for me and having supported me throughout this journey. I would like to invite Ravi on the stage as well to Singapore. So proud that you have finally exercised your right to freedom of assembly. And I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the last 10 years of studying in the human rights law in Singapore. You have, through this instance, shown tremendous support, and thank you once again for your solidarity. And this last 2 or 3 weeks have been quite a trying moment for Roy. And I wish and I look forward to your support and blessings in the challenging times ahead. And I thank you, Singapore. I actually have to read from a script because I cannot go out of point in case. Thank you. Thank you. Singapore has come a long way in our country's history. Today, we are at the crossroads. Now, how can our country continue to grow while our people will be taken care of, protected, and cared for? Now, as the citizens who care for our country, as the Singaporeans who have a stake in our country, it is our birthright, and it is our responsibility to speak up, to voice out, so that we can create solutions for our country, and better not only our lives, but that of our fellow men. After nearly 50 years, Singapore might have a first world economy and we have first world costs. But do we have a first world government? Do we have a first world life? Now today, many Singaporeans struggle with our lives, earning the lowest wages among the high-income countries. Even as Singapore has become the most expensive place to live in the world. Now Singaporeans struggle to make ends meet and fear that we do not have enough to use. Now, but this shouldn't happen. This shouldn't be where Singapore is today. Not when Singapore is now one of the richest countries in the world. Shouldn't happen when our politicians are paid the highest salaries in the world. Yes, this shouldn't happen when Singaporeans struggle day by day. It shouldn't happen. Now, we are not envious of our government. Now, we are not people who are envious. Singaporeans are cool-headed people. We know that if we can trust you, we will stick through thick and thin with you. Now, Singaporeans are humble people. We are reasonable people. Now, someone told me, for us Singaporeans, if you treat us well, we will treat you even better. We have integrity. We believe in justice. Now we believe in fairness. But when you betray our trust, now we will not hold back and we will not take it lightly. citizens. A government should put its citizens first and create policies that take care of the Singaporeans and make sure that we are safe in our own country. Now, the government has a responsibility to listen to its people, to be humble, and to work with the people. This is what the government should be doing. Now, when Singaporeans talk about our CPF, when we raise our concerns, it is the responsibility of the government to listen. Now, why do Singaporeans have to sell our homes? Because we do not have enough to retire on. Now, why do Singaporeans have to sell our homes? Because we cannot pay for the medical bills. Why are our elderly Singaporeans continue working? Because our CPF is not good enough for them to retire on. Now, if the CPF is not good enough, then can we still trust the government to take care of our CPF? Now today, our grandmothers and our grandfathers, they have to work as cleaners, odd-job laborers, and cardboard collectors. 20 years ago, low-income workers were earning $800. Today, they are still earning $800. Now, if they cannot retire, is it because they did not work hard enough? Or is it because they did not get paid enough? Now, last week, a Singaporean told me, the government makes me beg them, but I have my dignity. I also have my pride. Now, if I keep begging and the government does not help me, now why should I keep begging? Do our poor remain poor because they do not work hard enough? Is it right for our lower-income Singaporeans to believe that they should remain poor because they are not good enough, not smart enough, not hardworking enough? No, it is not right. Our poor and our elderly workers work the longest hours in Singapore. Now, if that is not hardworking, what is? Singaporeans are reasonable people. We are hardworking people. We will work hard if we know that for the sake of our country, for our families, for our lives, we will work hard for it. But when we work so hard and we realize that we are being taken for granted, then how can we still have faith in the government that they will protect our interests and our rights? Today, many Singaporeans cannot retire. Today, Singaporeans work very hard, but we cannot see our CPF. Today, we fear that we might not be safe in our own country. Now, it is now a known fact that the government takes our CPF to invest in the GIC, the government's investment firm. The government takes our CPF to earn 6.5%, but they only give us back 2.5 to 4%. This is the lowest interest rates in the world. In the 1970s and 1980s, Singaporeans were earning 6.5% interest on our CPF. Now, some of you might remember that. So why did the government push down our CPF interest rates to 2.5% in 1999 and kept it at a low 2.5% since 1999? Now, Singaporeans today cannot retire because our CPF cannot grow. Our wages did not grow, our CPF interest rates did not grow, and today, that is why our CPF does not grow. But prices grew, housing prices grew, and the CPF minimum sum grew. Why should the government be increasing the CPF minimum sum by more than 6%, knowing full well that Singaporeans will they had previously said that GIC manages the government reserves. But as to how the funds from the CPF monies flow into the reserves, which can then be managed by either MAS, GIC, and Temasek, this is not made explicit to us. The GIC also said that the government, which is represented by the Ministry of Finance and its dealings with GIC, neither directs nor interfere in the company's investment decisions. It holds the board accountable for the overall portfolio performance. So the GIC claim that they do not know how they are using our CPF funds to invest. And the GIC claim that the government does not interfere in the GIC. So I repeat, the GIC claim that they do not know how they are using our CPF monies. But when we look at the GIC's board of directors, the chairman is the Singapore Prime Minister. The board of directors are the deputy prime ministers and two ministers. Madam Qiu Qinhen, Eng Swee Kiat, and Lim Heng Kiang. The senior advisor is Lee Kuan Yew. So how can it be possible that the GIC does not know how they are using our CPF? How can it be possible that the government does not interfere in the GIC? But then who is not telling the truth? Is the GIC not telling the truth? Or is the government not telling the truth? After this fact has been exposed, the GIC changed what they say on their website. Now it says, GIC, along with MAS, managed the proceeds from the securities invested and guaranteed by the government, which CPF board has invested in the CPF monies. So when the CPF monies are not revenue transferred to GIC, for management, one of the sources of funds that goes into the government assets managed by GIC is the proceeds from SSGS or our CPF. But what the government is saying is that our CPF, but what the GIC is saying is that our CPF is invested in government securities which goes into the government assets managed by the GIC. In short, the GIC manages our CPF. So from not knowing how our CPF is being invested in the GIC, suddenly the GIC and the government knows how our CPF is managed by the GIC. Why did the GIC suddenly change what they say and then suddenly admit that they know how they are using our CPF? Make this about turn. Why did the GIC change what they say after the information became public? So why did the GIC first tell us that they do not know that they are using CPF and suddenly tell us that they do? Now all this while, the Singapore Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Ministers and the Ministers are on the board of directors of the GIC. So what game are they playing? Now not only that, the fund managers at the GIC also are paid a fee to manage the funds in the GIC or our CPF. Now how much is this fee? There is no transparency as to how much this is. Now the ministers are currently paid millions of dollars from our taxpayers' money. How much more are they paid as fund managers from our CPF monies? Now what we should ask is this: should the Prime Minister of Singapore be on the board of the directors of GIC? Should the Deputy Prime Ministers and the Ministers be on the board of the GIC? There are conflict of interest. Now who will protect our CPF money if the government is also the GIC? The GIC does not publish full reports on how they use our funds. Do we know what the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister and the Ministers are using our funds for? Now, a few days Temasek Holdings to the streets time to say that Temasek Holdings does not invest or manage the savings of CPF members. But in the book, development states relevancy, redundancy, or reconfiguration. It was stated since the late 1970s, CPF's reserves as part of public sector surplus had been commingled with other investments, either domestically by Temasek Holdings or abroad by the GIC. If so, does this mean that at one point in time, our CPF was invested in Temasek Holdings? If so, when did the government stop investing our CPF in the Temasek Holdings? Last year? A few years ago? 10 years ago? Can the government be transparent with us? Now Temasek Holdings earn a 60% interest rate. If our CPF was invested in the Temasek Holdings, then we should get our interest back. Now last year, I had also looked through several government websites and found specific evidence of how our CPF is invested in the Temasek Holdings and GIC. From what I had gathered from several government websites, I was able to trace that our CPF monies are invested in bonds or special government, Singapore government securities, which are then invested in reserves, and which are managed by three agencies: the GIC, Temasek Holdings, and the MAF. However, last week, I checked on this website again. The government has now removed or changed some of this information on their websites. Now you can tell that your CPF is invested in the GIC and Temasek Holdings. Plus, the government removed information that our CPF is invested in the reserves. Next, the government removed information that shows directly that our funds are managed by the GIC, Temasek Holdings, and the MAS. So why did the government remove these two information? Why does the government not want us to know that our CPF is invested in the GIC and Temasek Holdings? What is the government trying to hide? Finally, in 1993, President Chong wanted to fulfill his responsibilities as our elected president to protect our reserves and our CPF. Thank you, President Chong. President Chong asked the government to let him know how much there are in reserves. The government told him that it will take 56 years to count and let him know. But now, we know that the reserves are managed by the GIC the Temasek Holdings and the MAS. If so, the GIC, Temasek Holdings and MAS should not have kept full and proper records of how they are dealing with our money. So how can it be possible that it will take 56 years for them to count how much they are in the reserves? Now, if the GIC, Temasek Holdings and the MAS are not keeping proper records, then we have to question, are they handling our money properly? Can we trust them with our funds if they cannot keep proper records of our money? Now, they do keep proper records of our money. Why did they tell President John that it will take 56 man years to let him know how much there are in the Now, President Ong Teng Cheong had wanted to protect Singaporeans. President Ong Teng Cheong had wanted to protect our CPF. President Ong Teng Cheong had